everyone. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Chris. So, this is the sixth or seventh time I've tried to start this video. Yeah, I'm struggling tonight. I don't know if I'm tired or I don't know if it's the book I was trying to talk about that has given me the struggle. So, I think I'm going to start with a different book rather than that book. I'll save it for last or next to last. Okay, so new year, new month. So for the month of January, I have read 6 books and I DNF'd 1 book. Overall, it was a decent month, or so I thought, and so I tried to start talking about the 1 book, and I really just came to talk about it. So where to start? Now, I'm sorry if I looking away from the camera from time to time because I did kind of I have jotted down some notes on each book that I read just to kind of refresh my memory and whatnot. So, first book I'm going to talk about is All the Little Raindrops by Mia Sheridan. This book was first published in 2023. The book is about 2 teenagers who were abducted within, I believe, days of each other. Noelle Meyer is the girl. She's about 17. I think they're both starting their senior year, I believe. Or they're in the middle of their senior year in high school. And the other person was Evan Sinclair. Now, these two do have the families share a past. We'll say that. Noelle's mother was actually murdered or said to be murdered by Evan's father. It's just a little piece of the story, that bit. It's not, the main story. The main story is these 2 teenagers being abducted. And they she wakes up first because she was there, she was abducted first in a cage. And I don't know, maybe a day or so passes, she realizes there's somebody else in this cage with her, and that's Evan. Now, they really can't see each other because it's dark, but they're talking and, whatnot. And at some point, she does realize who he is, and he realizes who she is. But that's just a little bit, but they're getting to know each other. And basically, at this point, they only have each other for support in this cage. So, I don't want to talk about, what goes on, because that's part of the story, is this horrifying, traumatic experience that they go through while they are together in this cage. Now, they do escape, but all the meantime, they developed a very close relationship because there were some horrifying things that happened, and they did kind of end up forming a bond together, and he has actually kind of fallen in love with her, and they escape, and his father, and kind of, was a dick, and, wanted him to stay away from her, and then she didn't really want to, see him anyway, and because she needed to heal and whatnot, and they couldn't continue with their short relationship that they did form. But years later, Evan goes to college, she goes on her way, and he ends up becoming a private investigator. And he works on cheating spouses, things like that. But things start to happen because he comes across a case that because he keeps up like with things going on in the local police department, because he kind of still wants to know or find the people who did what they did to him and Noelle. And a case comes up that seemed awfully similar to him in the situation that he and Noelle went through as they were young teenagers. So he reaches out to Noelle. And together, they kind of return to the whole scene of, not the exact scene of the crime, the premise around that, what happened to them, to what's currently happening. And they start to uncover a lot of things, a lot of family secrets. They end up following a trail of clues that lead them towards the people who abducted them and why and what it's all about. I enjoyed this book. It was, part of me wanted, because the story about that revolved around them being, when they were abducted in this cage, I would have liked the story to focus and hone in a little bit more on that. Because it was, I like twisted things. It was a little twisted, like, ooh, what's going on here? Oh, who are these people? And yeah. But it was not mostly, a lot of it was to do with the relationship between Noelle and Evan. Even though there was the past there, that didn't seem to be the highlight of the book. And I thought it would have been really interesting to dive into, I guess, the other side of it. Because the front side is Noelle and Evan. They're abducted. They're in this horrible situation that was really bizarre and weird. And the other side of it being this bizarre, weird situation that they're in and who's behind it. I kind of wanted that story. It was interesting. It was twisted. I kind of liked it. Overall, I thought this was a good book. I gave it 3 stars. It was interesting. It kept me engaged. I wanted to keep finding out, where's this going? Are they going to, who are these people that abducted them and why? And so, yeah. And I did like the relationship coming back together. That was a good part of the book. It turned out it was, it was really good. I usually don't go for that type of thing. But I did like that part of it. So yeah, All the Little Raindrops by Mia Sheridan. I did enjoy this book. I thought it was good. So I did give it 3 stars. I know 3 stars doesn't sound like a lot, but I got my reading journal here and how I'm doing my ratings for what I base it on. So actually 3 stars is, for me, I've got written here, it's average, it's enjoyable, there's good characters, they're well developed, it has a good plot, kept me entertained, it wasn't super deep, and it follows kind of like a writing format. Well, this really didn't, but overall it was well-rounded, well-written, and I felt satisfied, and it checked all my boxes. So yeah, I gave this a solid 3 stars. I thought it was really good. Would I recommend it? I would loosely recommend it. I mean, it wasn't like fantastic, oh my god, this book was so good, but it was a good book. I enjoyed it. Okay. Next book is, where is it? Oh, it's The Briar Club by Kate Quinn. Now, this is, when was this? Oh, this was first published in 2024, so this was a newer book. I didn't even realize this was newer. I really enjoyed this book. This was, the setting is during the McCarthy era. It's 1950, and it's Washington, D.C. And It's an all-women boarding house. Um, I don't know if there's really a main character here because it's just a group of women. Basically, in this house until Grace moves in. Grace is more of she's more of a mysterious character. She moves into the house, and what happens is the other women that live there, let me get their names. Okay, so there's Grace. She moves in. And it kind of brings the other women together, and they somewhat form kind of like a friendship, these women. And there's Grace, Fliss, Nora, Beatrice, Arlene, and then Rika. She's kind of on the outside. She's an older lady. Nora is of Irish descent. Beatrice is a little bit she's a little rough around the edges. Arlene is like feisty and boisterous. Fliss is a little bit more meek, and she's got a daughter, a little girl, and her husband's off in Japan, or Korea, I'm sorry, because he's a doctor, and he's the Korean War, and just kind of broken out, and so he's over there on the medic team. And what I really liked is, and then there's Pete Nielsen. He is the son of Mrs. Nielsen, who owns and runs the landlady of the house. She owns the house and she's the landlady. Each part of the book has like a story to tell about each one of these all these women have a story and a background. And so it starts with like, we'll just say, I think Nora was the first one. And then it's Nora's voice speaking, going through the day of whatever, and then things that are happening in her life, and, what she had happened in her past, where she's going, what her goals are, and it goes like that through each woman. But we still don't know about Grace March, but Grace knows a lot about all the other women because she just has a way of reading these women and speaking to them and kind of nurturing their things that are bothering them or their secret. And they meet like once a week in Grace's room, and they have like, they watch TV because Grace has a TV in her room, and they'll get together and they'll watch a TV show and maybe have some snacks and a drink and whatever. And that's how their relationships are forming. But these stories all kind of come together. And the reason I brought up the McCarthy area because part of the Russian spy and communism scare is it's relevant in the story. Overall, it was a good read. I love the characters. Some of them were quirky, and they were each just all different types of women, and this friendship that they formed, and the situation that culminates around it. Again, I don't want to give too much of the story itself away, the heart of it. It was really good. I really enjoyed this book very much. I plan on reading other books by Kate Quinn. I liked her writing style. I like the fact I do like to read books that have a little history in them. So again, this was enjoyable for me. I gave it 4 stars, which for me, I've got is an above average book, strong characters, good writing style. The plot was strong and twisty, surprises throughout the story, anticipation on what happens next, and I felt more than satisfied. So yeah, this was a solid 4-star book for me. I really enjoyed it. That's The Briar Club by Kate Quinn. Good story. I'd say it was medium paced, but I like the characters in it. I really like these women. And I like the son too, Pete. Pete was always hanging around. He started, it goes over a period of like 5 years, I believe, this friendship. And Pete was just a young boy when it started, and then he turns into be a young man, but he was kind of like the man of the house, and but a friend. Good story. It was really good. Very enjoyable. Okay, so the next book I read, fantastic. And this book is The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hell by Robert Dugoni. This was first published in 2018. I love this book. I'm still thinking about this book. I didn't write any notes here. So, Sam Hell, he was born with red eyes. He's not albino, but I think his disease was called ocular albinism. So the lack of pigment in the iris, so his eyes were red. His mom was a devout Catholic, and she always said, you're going to lead, you're born to do extraordinary things. So if this book has no plot, okay, there's no plot, there's no twists. It's just a story. That's it. It's a story about Sam Hell with the red eyes. And actually, his last name isn't even Hell. It's Kell. Kell? Yeah, Sam Kell. But Sam Hell, because they used to call him, the kids would tease him. They called him Devil Boy. So it's just a story. And what I liked about this story was it starts pretty much right around when he's about 6 and starting school. And his mom wants him in this Catholic school. And right there is when immediately the differences and how we look at people who are different and where they belong or we think they don't belong. And I'm sorry, I got something in my eye, and it's it's been bothering me all day actually. So the mom takes him to the school and speaks to the what do they call those women? Not the principal. What do they call those ladies? They're I don't want to say the headmaster, but it doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. And she said that they couldn't have him in the school. Well, the mother raised hell and said, why can't what is your reasoning? Why can't he come here? And she said, because she feels he would be a disruption to the other kids in the school because they've already started calling him the Devil Boy. Well, she got a hold of the papers and made a big stink and yada yada, and she's like active parishioner in the church and friends with the priest, the father, and they ultimately he gets to go to the school there. And things weren't easy for him. He was picked on, especially by this one boy, and calling him Devil Boy, and he was just constantly picked on. So the poor Sam, he wouldn't even speak. He was so afraid of this boy, and he had no friends. And one day he was out in the play yard, and he was sitting in the bleachers by himself. I think he was eating his lunch, and another boy came up to him. And why can't I remember this boy's name? Because I love this book so much. You think I should have wrote his name down. He was a little black boy. And they instantly kind of just connected. The little black boy was different because he was the only black boy at the school. So their differences brought them together. And Sam ends up getting in a huge fight that day on the playground because he was defending his newfound friend. Oh, I'm so mad at myself for not getting the name. Darn it. Anyway, they stay friends throughout their lives, throughout the entire book. They grow up together, they become adults together, and all through the book and through the years, as Sam is going from child to adolescent to pre-adult to adult and beyond, looking for why the extraordinary in his life that his mother told him that God promised for him. There's just, it's so involved, not involved, it's just, there was just so much story and it's just really good and I just loved it so much. I really love this book. Just a good story. It was heartfelt. Yeah. It was a heartfelt, good book on just being different and learning to accept that and how you grow up, how you're treated. And I'm going to stop there because there is just a little bit of something that goes on in there in the book with Sam. And yeah, this is a book I would recommend people to pick up and read. If you're looking for something that's not super deep, but at the same time, good writing, a good character that you love and you just adore. Yeah. And then there's Mickey. Mickey's the girl that he becomes best friends with, along with his, I cannot remember that kid's name. Johnny? What was his name? I can't remember. All three of them. It's a good book. It really is a good book. And again, Extraordinary Life of Sam Howell, Robert Dugoni, and I gave this a solid 5 stars. Absolutely freaking loved it. Check it out. And if you check it out, or if you read it, let me know, because I'm really curious. Okay. Yeah, I'm still thinking about that book. It was just good. Just a good story. Just kind of made you happy. All right. Then I read Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. Oh, I didn't write down how many stars I gave this. Darn it. Anyway. All right. This was first published in 2015. It had a medium pace. 2 sisters, Claire and Lydia. And they had another sister, Julia, who disappeared. Julia was the oldest. Lydia, I believe, was the middle child, and Claire was the youngest. So I think Julia disappeared when she was 18 or 19. She was a student in college. Claire was still pretty young. And Lydia was just a few years. I think Claire would have been about 13, I think, when her sister disappeared. And Lydia, the middle child, I want to say was like 14, 15. So they disappear. Or she disappeared. That's the back. That's behind the scenes there of how these two sisters kind of what they dealt with. But now in current day, there's another girl, and I'm trying to think, maybe 20 years later or so, another girl in the town that they lived in is missing. And Claire kind of feels, it's stirring up emotions for her, thoughts, of her sister. And so, and that's right in the beginning of the book. She's actually waiting for her husband to meet her. And her husband is Paul. He's a millionaire. Claire is a trophy wife. Never worked. She just doesn't do much of anything. She plays tennis. And I have to say, I didn't really care for the character of Claire. I thought her to be naive. I didn't care for her. Liked Lydia much better. Now, there has been, her and Lydia haven't spoken in many, many years because of something that happened long ago. And again, I don't want to give too much of the story away. Now, Claire's husband, the millionaire, he ends up, and this is the beginning of the story, it's not giving anything away. He ends up getting murdered in an alley. And that's where the story really kind of starts to begin. Right at that point from his murder. Because after he dies, Claire starts to uncover secrets and weird things. And I can say that this book is a little dark. I'm just going through the story in my head. See, this is why, Chris has a hard time doing this kind of thing, because I have to think about what I want to say without giving too much away. So she starts to uncover things about her husband that she didn't know. And she ends up running into her sister after her husband's death, shortly after, like days after. And they start talking and kind of piecing some things together. I can't say too much because, like I said, I don't want to give too much of the story away. It got very deep. Like, there was like a whole can of worms opened that were going in all different directions. So it turns out her husband kind of was involved with this missing teenage girl. Like, he had involvement in this girl being missing. And like I said, it was dark. It's a dark story. I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to give it away. However, am I really? No, because you want to kind of, if anybody reads it, I would want the reader to be able to see the secrets that Claire uncovers early on in the book that starts all this uncovering of more and more secrets. So, yeah, Pretty Girls was a good book. I did give it 3 stars. I didn't give it 4. I'm pretty sure I gave it 3. I could be wrong. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to check right now because I do have my computer right here. I can't. Oh, I did. I gave it 4 stars. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't give it 3. So yeah, it was a good, solid read for me. It was enjoyable. Great plot. Yeah. Pretty Girls, Karen Slaughter. I did. It was a good book. So, I mean, I'd recommend it. But like I said, it's dark. So, there might be some trigger warnings for people, maybe. I don't know. It was a little dark. A little bit dark. All right, so then what do I have next? Well, that was my DNF. This was my other good book. So we'll talk about the next one. Now, I know I had said before that I wanted to talk about, when I was going over my reading goals, one of my goals was I wanted to read a horror book. And I'll just touch on this again. I don't watch scary movies because they scare me. I know that's the object of them, but the problem is they haunt me. They haunt me in like just the craziest times. Like I could be sitting in my living room watching TV, just totally random, and then all of a sudden I'll get a thought or a vision of what I saw in a movie, and then I'm freaked out, and then I start to get paranoid, and I start to get scared, and I get freaked out. But for some reason, I wanted to try to read a horror novel. And I thought, well, I really, really love the writing of Stephen King. And not all his books, to me, in my mind, aren't horror. Like, I'm going to tell you how much I love The Stand. Right now, that's my favorite book, The Stand, by Stephen King. That's my favorite right now. Now, I just checked and see how many I read. I have read, I counted them today, 9. I've read 9 Stephen King novels. I read, like, the first Stephen King novel I read was, oh my God, probably like 25 or 30 years ago. I think it was called Insomnia. Not all his books, to me, are horror. Green Mile's not horror. Shawshank Redemption isn't a horror. What I think is horror, right? But I know a lot of them, at least I thought, were. The Stand, I wouldn't consider that a horror novel. It wasn't, it didn't scare me. So I was thinking, let me check out some of his other novels. What other novel might fit that bill of being scared? Well, I started watching YouTube videos and, people talking about scary books. And one of the books that kept coming up was Pet Sematary. I thought, okay. Now, mind you, I did see Pet Sematary, the movie, many, many years ago. Now, this book came out in 1983. And I think the movie was 1989. And I pretty much saw it shortly thereafter. So, a long time ago I saw this movie, right? Was that 30 years? I don't even remember the movie. There's only one part in the movie that I absolutely remember. Just because it was just, oh my God. Like, but it wasn't like horror. I'm not talking about like, it wasn't, I didn't look at it like, oh, I'm so scared. It wasn't like that. I was just like, oh my God, did that really just happen? So, now Alexis told me I shouldn't read Pet Sematary. when I was talking about what I, reading a horror, she thought maybe I should read Misery, which is also a very good movie, by the way. In fact, Misery is on my list of one of the Stephen King novels I would like to read. In fact, I've got like 25 of his books on my list that I want to read. Some sooner than later. She felt it would be too scary for me. But I didn't heed her warning. So I went ahead and I read Pet Sematary. Now, I have to say, I don't know, maybe I missed something. I don't think I did. I didn't find it scary. Maybe I'm only afraid of visual horror. Now, I know when I read, I have a very vivid imagination and vivid descriptions when I'm reading of what is going on. And that's one of the things I like about Stephen King, is because he has a way of drawing you into that book, and you're actually walking with the characters in his books. That's why I like his writing. There's few books I've read that do that for me. I'm trying to think of books. Kristen Hanna, all the books I've read by her, I actually felt like I was immersed into the book. I read Pillars of the Earth. I think that's Ken Follett. Fantastic book. You were there. So I don't know if it's the writers that do that, because I read other books and I don't feel that way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I'm there with them. I'm just reading the book, enjoying it. I like those books that pull me in, and I'm there with the characters of the book. So, Pet Sematary. So, Pet Sematary is about Dr. Lewis Creed. He moves his family from Chicago to Ludlow, Maine, because he took a job at a university there. So it's rural Maine, and bought a beautiful home, a lot of land. On the first day he arrives, he meets his neighbor, Judd, who lives across the street. Now, the street that they live on is a very busy, highway. So, lots of big tractor trailers, speeding too fast, going up, down the street or highway. Road. Yeah, I guess it wasn't a street, it was a road. It's not like a little, it was a busy, highway type road. And, Judd's tells them when they first move in, you gotta be careful of the road here because they have a cat. So they got two. Okay, so back up. Lewis has a wife, Rachel, a daughter, Ellie, son, Gage, and they have a cat named Church, for Winston Churchill, and they call him Church. You gotta watch your kids and your cat with the road, and we see many animals get hit. Lots of people lost their pets. Okay. So on their property, up a hill and through the woods, there is a pet cemetery that, kids in the area have made a pet cemetery, because a lot of people lost their pets on this road. And so Judd takes them into the woods and shows them the pet cemetery, and, shows them the property and whatnot. But there's also another cemetery just past the pet cemetery that is an old ancient Indian burial ground. So, you see where I'm going with this? And it all starts when I want to tell you. I'm going to tell you this because I don't think it's any type of spoiler. When the cat church gets hit by a truck or a car and dies. Ellie, Rachel, and Gage gone back to Chicago to visit her parents. And Lewis is just devastated that this happened because Ellie's very, very attached to her cat. Well, Judd suggests to bury the cat in the Micmac cemetery. The Micmac cemetery is the Indian burial ground. Well, the story takes off from there. I don't want to go into too much more than that. Now, I think what's horrifying about the book, why it's classified as horror, when you've got, your animal coming back to life, kind of like half demon-like, is just the premise surrounding death, grief, the madness that it could take you to, the heights that grief can take you to, the desperation that you feel, crossing lines of, morality. It's a dark, disturbing book. That's how I would describe it. Very dark, very disturbing. I wasn't scared in the book. I wasn't scared while I was listening to this book. I don't remember being scared watching the movie either. Yeah, it wasn't scary. It's dark, it's disturbing. What was scary was the things that Lewis did was scary. Yeah. But excellent book. So well written. As I'm talking about it, I'm actually seeing the story in front of me, like a movie. Yeah, this was a good book. Very good. I'm glad I read it. I feel a little more confident in myself that I can read more Stephen King. I know I could read Misery. I saw Misery, the movie, and I remember that movie vividly. I do want to read it because I think I don't remember the crazy woman's name, but that character is fascinating. So yeah. Pet Sematary, I gave 5 stars. I gave 5 stars based on the writing, the mood, the atmosphere of the book, the way the book made me feel, the turns and the story behind each character. I love the character of Judd. I really did. I really liked that character the most out of the whole book. I didn't care for Lewis too much. I thought he was a little bit of a pussy, but didn't seem doctorly to me. Anyway, medium-paced book. Medium because it's not a fast-paced book, because Stephen King takes his time when he tells a story. So I'd say the pace was medium. Overall, fantastic book. I really, really enjoyed it. And most people have already read it, so I'm not going to tell you, if you ever read it, go grab the book, because anybody watching has probably already read it. But I don't know which one I want to choose next, but I'm going to go to a light book. But no, I'm probably not, because there's another book I want to start. I don't know. Anyway, Pet Sematary. Loved it. Did not scare me. That made me happy that I wasn't scared, and I got to enjoy one of Stephen King's finest. books outside of the stand, of course. Okay, now we're going to talk about that book that I just have trouble talking about. And that book is, because I guess I didn't like it as much as I thought I did. That book is The Teacher by Frieda Mcfadden. It was published in 2024. I just didn't like the book. I don't think I liked it. I didn't like Eve. She was the main character. She was a teacher. She's a math teacher. Her husband is also a teacher. They teach at the same school. It's a private school, I believe. She's a math teacher. Nate is an English lit teacher. And then there's Addie, the troubled student who has kind of like, there's a lot of rumors about her and some sort of inappropriate situations that took place with her and another teacher who Eve was very fond of. She liked this teacher, and she refuses to believe that anything happened. So, yeah, that's that. So, you could kind of, without me telling you what happens. I mean, I don't know. I don't have much to say about the book. Eve likes shoes. She had an obsession with shoes. And I thought it was silly how this, being this part of the book that's pretty, like, intense, and all of a sudden, she brings up shoes. I just thought it was silly. I don't know. I've read about 6 of Frieda Mcfadden's books. The only one I really enjoyed was The Housemaid, The Housemaid's Secret, and The Housemaid is Watching. It's like a 3 series. I enjoyed those. I thought those were good. Mainly because I think because I liked the character. The other books that I've read by her, I've kind of all fell flat for me. It's a fast read. It's fast paced. I didn't find that there was a whole lot of plot. It did have a really good twist at the end. But yeah, it was alright. It was I'm going to give it 2 stars. I wrote 3 down here, but I'm going with 2 because I'm going to give it 2.5 because the twist at the end was good. So I'm going with 2.5 on that. Okay? But The Teacher by Frieda Mcfadden, like I said, I can't even, there's not much I could tell you about the book without telling you the whole book. Because I can't talk much about the characters because there wasn't much to say. They weren't like well-developed characters. I have nothing really to say about the characters. I don't know. Didn't care for it. All right, my DNF book. Well, I picked this book up because I saw it mentioned somewhere, and I can't remember where, and somebody was talking about it briefly, and I thought, oh, let me look at that. So I pulled the book up, and I thought, based on, the summary of the book, I thought, you know what? This might be something different for me to read, a different change of pace, get away from the thrillers and suspense type movie or books. And that book's called When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. This is a book. It's more of like not a memoir. That's not the right word. Anyway, it was published in 2016. It's written, Paul is an aspiring neurosurgeon. He's in his last year of residency. I think it's a 10-year residency to be a neurosurgeon. So he's 36 years old, and at 36, he discovers he's got stage 4 lung cancer, and he's dying. So he starts writing this book. I thought it would be more like, there's one part in the summary, it's posing the question, what makes life worth living in the face of death? I thought it would have been told. I thought he would have been telling his story a little bit differently. I felt like, now mind you, the book is kind of like a draft. I mean, it's not like it went through an editing process, and so I thought it was like a little bit disjointed, and there was bits and pieces that were good, and it was disjointed. To me, it was just like he was sitting down writing and talking. It wasn't well crafted. Understandably, the man is dying. In fact, he died before the book was finished. He died in 2015. And I think, because I didn't finish it, I'm pretty sure his wife summed up the book in the end with what her thoughts, her feelings. I thought it was going to be more or less this doctor man talking about how he's viewing life, knowing that he's going to die. I just thought it was going to be different. That's all. And it wasn't horrible. It was just, I was bored. I wasn't getting any aha moments or, those little nuggets of wisdom coming from a person who's dying to talk about life and what we need to appreciate in the now, and because you don't know when it's going to be gone. I thought it was going to be that type of book, and it wasn't getting there. It was still talking a lot about his treatments and still working and doing surgery on patients. It was a lot about how the doctor-patient relationship changes. It just, like I said, was it a bad book? No. It just, for me, I was bored. Wasn't what I expected, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to finish listening to this. And it's a very short book, too. I don't know what it is in print because I was doing the audio, and I want to say, and I read my books or listen to my books at 1.2, and I want to say it was like just under 5 hours. So I thought, I'm going to listen to this. I could do this, and, I'll be done with work before. I'll be done with the book before I even finish a day's work. Yeah, like I said, it just didn't move me. I thought I would have been moved, but I wasn't. So yeah, look at that. I spent a whole hour talking or just going all the time. I gotta work on that. Anybody got any tips on how to stop going all the time? Okay, everybody. I'm done. That's what I read. What books have you read lately? Have you read anything in the books that I mentioned? Alexis, if you're watching, I know you read Pet Cemetery. Any books you got planned going forward? I have quite a few planned. I'm excited to read them. And I'm really excited to try to talk about them. I think it's me tonight. I think it's just been a long day, and I'm a little tired. And yeah, so anyway, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the time you take out of your day, your lives, your busy schedule, and you watch a video I've uploaded. It means a lot to me. Please comment, like, and subscribe. It helps my channel grow. And you have a great day, a great night, great weekend, whenever you happen to be watching, and we will chat again real soon. Bye-bye.